So welcome everybody. This is slated to be an hour. I don't think that we'll need that long. We're going to go over just the specifics of what a partnership can look like and who we are and what we do, and then leave the floor open to anyone who has any sort of question. So feel free to either save those for the end and verbally ask those, or as the presentation is going on, write them in the chat and we can get to those at the end. If they're super pertinent and relevant to the slide that we're on or the portion that we're on, we can answer them then as well. But I do want to start just with some quick intros from myself, Meredith, and Addie. I will start first, and if everyone else can write their name and where they're from and the organization that they're with in the chat, that would be great as well. I am Frank Neres. I am a senior program director here with Up2Us Sports. I am located in Chicago, Illinois. So I manage the Midwest as well as the Seattle region and a little bit of the Pacific Northwest just in general. I've been with Up2Us for a total of 6 years now. Going on 7. So I was a coach for 2 years, and now I've been on the management side for going on 5. And I will toss it over to Meredith for a quick intro.
Hi, everyone. My name is Meredith Newby, and I'm the Senior Program Director overseeing the East Coast region. I've been with the organization for, I believe, almost 5 years now. I'm losing track of time with the pandemic. And I will pass it. Oh, and I'm in Baltimore, Maryland, and I'll pass it over to Addie.
Hey y'all, I'm Addie. I'm our Senior Program Director in the South. I'm located in Dallas and I work with our teams from LA all the way to Miami. And I've been with the organization for about 5 years or a little over 5 years now. And I'll pass it back to Frank.
Awesome. Thanks, y'all. Yeah, so we got some people in New York. We got some people I saw another in Seattle. Nice. Massachusetts, New Jersey. We're coming from all over the country, California. That's awesome. So here's the agenda for today. Again, I highly doubt this is going to last the full hour unless everyone comes with a bunch of questions, which we're always open to and prepared for. But we'll talk about our vision, just the basics of the coach program, just some reasons and benefits to partner with Up2Us Sports, and then a further breakdown of what a partnership can look like, next steps in terms of application, and then again, we'll get to those questions at the end. So diving right into who Up2Us is and sort of, what we do. At the base of things, we are a sports-based youth development trauma-sensitive program. So we'll shorten sports-based youth development to be SBYD. So if anyone here isn't familiar with that, that's what that means when we say that. And what that means is we really just put intentionality behind coaching. That's the general way to look at it. We understand that sports is extremely powerful. So we want every single kid in the nation to have a trauma-informed sports-based youth development coach in their life. Our vision is, again, we want all youth to achieve that potential with a sports-based youth development coach sort of leading that way. And we'll dive into a little bit more of what training looks like and how these coaches get that training here in a little bit. And why we exist, it's in sort of, where we come into the fold here is we are an intermediary organization. So we are in the middle of our partner sites as well as AmeriCorps. We're an AmeriCorps funded program. And it's really threefold. So the benefits go with the coach because we create an opportunity for them to have a service year or multiple service years even. So they get, a chance to gain experience. And we'll talk about the other sort of specific benefits for their service year later. And the other fold is the youth. They get a highly trained coach for a year or multiple years, if the partnership goes in to really put intentionality behind coaching them with whatever sport that they're in. And then our partners, our coaches are there to support the work and the vision and add capacity really in any way that, we can see fit in terms of what's happening in that program. And again, we know how powerful sports is and just different lessons that can be taught through sport. So in certain aspects, we aren't reinventing the wheel by any means, but we're really putting intentionality behind what a coach can be and what a coach can do. And so, yeah, really, we want to harness the power and the potential of youth through sport by using that intentionality and getting our coaches these different trainings and knowledge as it pertains to SBYD and being trauma sensitive. And I will be passing it over to Addie, talk a little bit more in depth about the history of Up2Us.
Hey y'all. So we wanted to share a little bit more about our 3 programs. We'll primarily be talking about our coach program today, and so I'm not going to go super in depth into that. But we know everyone is kind of at a different place with what they need at their organization, so we wanted to be sure y'all were aware of all of the different options Up2Us offers. So first, our training program. So our training team will work with your organization to train your staff and or coaches on sports-based youth development topics. The training team will really work with you to curate what training you need based on your specific needs. So that could be relationship development or diving into trauma and how it affects the brain. And so that's just something that our training team will do for your staff if you are not interested or ready to host a coach yet. And I'll dive it a little bit more into what the training kind of looks like a little later in the slides. And then the training program also works directly with our coach program, of course, training our AmeriCorps coaches with our coach program. So if you were to host a coach with our AmeriCorps coach program, that they would bring that training with them into the program. And then our other program that is also AmeriCorps along with our coach program is the AmeriCorps Vista program. So unlike our coach program, the AmeriCorps Vista program really supports your organization through internal capacity building. So Vistas can work in marketing, development, they can create new programs in your organization. So really anything to help build your capacity internally, while our coach program is an AmeriCorps program that's directly serving youth on the ground and expanding your capacity with how many youth you're able to reach and maybe your sports programming. So they're directly working with youth, where our Vistas are really internal and helping you internally in your organization. But we're really going to just dive into the coach program today. And so if you're interested in any of the other programs, feel free to reach out to us afterwards and we can connect you with either our training team or Vista team. And so we also wanted to dive into include a little history of Up2Us Sports. So we have been around for 12 years now, and this is some of the impact we've had over those 12 years. One of our core values as an organization is to be accountable to our supporters and really focus on results. So we're constantly improving our programming to make it the best it can be for your organizations, because we know how important it is for your youth to have that positive mentor in their lives. And we want to be sure our program is not only helping your programs build capacity, but also positively impacting the youth that we're serving. And we'll talk a little bit more about how we do that with our coach program. So now I'm going to pass it off to Meredith, who's going to dive into some of the nuts and bolts of our program.
Awesome. Thank you, Addie. So this is our coach program 101. So it can sound a little complicated just because we're including both AmeriCorps, Up2Us Sports, and then your program, but really we all work together to make sure that we are training and uplifting our coaches in a way that is really impactful within your program. So the little coach in the middle is a part of all 3 of those entities, and we work in really a big partnership all together. But the majority of the conversation we'll have today is regarding the partnership between Up2Us Sports and your program. And when we talk about your program, our lingo is that we call you the host site, because that is where the coach would be hosted for the majority of their service hours. So if you hear me say host site, I'm referring to your program in regards to our what ifs if you end up signing up with us. Cool. We can go to the next slide. Awesome. So there's a few different reasons why we feel strongly that this is a great program for partnership with other organizations and SBYD organizations that are already established. So as mentioned, this is not a standalone program. We do not have Up2Us Sports Summer Camp. We do not have an Up2Us Sports facility. What we are doing is we are finding organizations, nonprofits, schools, rec centers that already have programs in place and are looking to either expand their programming and be able to reach more youth, or they're looking to gain the essential trauma-informed sensitive training that we offer to be able to do more for the youth that we are reaching within our communities. And you can go ahead to the next slide, Frank. Cool. So the consistent coach and programmatic support that you would receive through the partnership with Up2Us Sports includes many of these aspects and more. So whenever you bring on a coach, and this coach would be somebody that you would look for within your community, maybe even an alumni of your program. We don't do the plug and play where we find a coach from a community that is not where you're serving, and maybe even doesn't know how to do your sport. We do the opposite. So we have you help find the coach so that they are a really good match for your program. And then we add on all this training that we are offering. And so with that comes a program manager. So the program manager would be in constant communication with both the coach and what we call the host site supervisor, which would be the day-to-day supervisor that is on site with your organization. We also bring, of course, the entire Up2Us Sports team. We are up to about 50 strong here in across the nation, and that's everything from marketing to HR to admin to operations. So you would get that one-on-one program manager that would be specific to your program and to your coach. And then we would be doing coach interviews, background checks, HR and admin support. So there would be payment for the coach through AmeriCorps that would actually come through our payroll. So you don't have to worry about doing any of those financial pieces or any of those background checks, unless it's something that you are also required to do, as some school systems are required to do their own. Additionally, we're going to be making sure that the coaches not only receive all the training, but that they're implementing the training. And the way that we do that is we do check-in calls and site visits. And the idea is that we have touch points with the coach at least monthly, if not more so, which some of our coaches it's every day, and sometimes it is just that monthly, depending on where they fall in line with their level and their skills. And then we would be coming out and doing site visits as long as you are within a region where we have programmatic staff. So those site visits will be a minimum of twice a year, but we try and come out even more often so that we can do some informal site visits and just be there for the coaches to help with their day-to-day implementation of the training. The other piece is mentorship. We are going to kind of dive in a little bit more later about the career readiness piece, but we are offering some great mentorship opportunities, and of course, helping coaches to get to where they would like to be within their career goals, and then creating a community amongst our coaches. So we want to make sure that we have a network. I know here in Baltimore, networking is key, and I'm sure that's becoming just the norm everywhere. And we want to make sure that a lot of our coaches who are between the ages of 18 and 26 are starting to establish their community and their network. And then what was mentioned before by Addie was the capacity building. So we're hoping that with these coaches, that you will be able to reach more youth and expand what you're doing even further. Awesome. The other piece that we will implement is what's called R&E support. And Frank, you can actually skip to the next slide for this one. So R&E support is monitoring and evaluation. So we want to make sure that everything that we're doing, we can brag about, that we can show the impact of what we're doing, but also what you are doing. And so we ask each of our coaches to measure the youth that they're serving, the improvement in youth activity levels, and social emotional learning levels as well. This is not something you need to create. This is something we have already created. So we're going to ask coaches to do certain requirements based on their specific program and the needs of that program. And then as long as they complete 80% of their data collection, we're going to give you an annual data performance report at the end of their service year, which will give you statistics and improvement numbers in all of those categories I mentioned that you can both utilize to give grant reports that maybe you're already on, or to apply for future grants, or just post it on your Instagram or on your website to show all the awesome work you and your coach are doing. Another key piece is career readiness. This is actually something that we recently established because we found that the majority of our coaches, again, are between that 18 to 26 range. And even if they're outside of that, who can't use career readiness support nowadays? But we found that a lot of our coaches just weren't really sure what to do next. Some of them either hadn't gone to college yet, or were in college, or just weren't really sure what their next step would be. And we found that a lot of them didn't know what opportunities were out there. So we didn't want our reach to stop at just the youth, because these 18 to 26-year-olds really are just kind of one step up from youth. A lot of them are very young. They're not quite sure how to quote unquote, jump into the real world. And we want to make sure that they're supported just as much as we want to make sure that our youth are getting the support they need. So we developed this career readiness, and right now it's being piloted in Chicago and Baltimore. And it was not just created out of thin air. It's something that we reached out to coaches about. We did a lot of focus groups. We wanted to find out exactly what their needs were to not only get the professional development that they need for their service year, but beyond. And so what we created was one-on-one career readiness support, which is where they can sit down with a career readiness expert and get as many of these one-on-one meetings as they'd like, where they can go over things like resume building, cover letter support, how to interview properly, how to do networking, and really just career mapping, which is that next bullet point. So career mapping is basically trying to figure out what the coach wants to do next, establishing goals to be able to reach that goal, and then helping the coach with those goals throughout their service term and beyond. The other piece is mentorship opportunities. So we're hoping this will be pretty new this year, and we're going to try and do some one-to-one mentorship with some of our coaches that have already decided that they want to go in a certain career path, and link them up with somebody who's already in that so that they can get that mentorship piece. And finally, the career accelerator. What this is almost like speed dating for our coaches. So they're going to be put in a either actual room or virtual room with an organization. We've done one with Aramark, we've done one with Liverpool Foundation. And they're actually going to be able to talk with people throughout the organization. We found this to be really helpful because sometimes coaches say, I want to work in sports, but they have no clue that, and really most of us don't have any clue of all the jobs that can be working in sports or sports adjacent. And so this gives our coaches an opportunity to learn about the ins and outs of an organization, ask questions, and get support directly from those organizations. And then the final piece, which is really what I would say our bread and butter is this evidence-based training that I'm going to actually pass it over to Addie to dive deep into.
Hi again. So as we mentioned earlier, our training is called Sports-Based Youth Development, which is really another way of saying positive youth development with a sports lens. We really focus on trauma-sensitive coaching and improving those social emotional learning outcomes in youth. And so our coach training doesn't teach a coach how to be the best baseball coach and teach them how to teach how to throw a baseball. Our coach training really teaches our coaches how to be that positive mentor in a kid's life. Because we just know how important that having a positive adult relationship can be to the youth in our program. And so here are some of the training topics that our training team will cover with our coaches, but really, to be honest, this is the tip of the iceberg with our training program. We dive deep into how play can affect the brain and how stress affects the brain, and how our coaches can help kids who are triggered and how they can help them calm down in a situation that's really stressful. And so we dive into a lot of different topics and teach our coaches how to really be that positive mentor for their kids, create a great team culture. And we all want our kids to come back to our program, and that's really also a goal of our coaches too. We want them to fall in love with the sport, and we want them to keep coming back year after year because they know it's a safe space. So logistically, how does our training work during our coaches service term? So our coaches will attend 5 in-person training sessions with our team. They're split up throughout the program year, so it's about every other month. There are 3 2-hour sessions and then 2 5-hour sessions. Then in between those in-person training sessions, there are virtual self-paced training to build upon the skills that they learned in those in-person trainings. Then, as Meredith mentioned earlier, throughout the entire experience, our coaches receive regular program manager support. And so our program managers are really here to help coaches excel at those training skills. We don't just train coaches, leave them be, and not check in on them again. We really want these coaches to make this training a part of their team culture and a part of their regular use. And so we check in on them and help them build those skills. And if they're struggling with a skill, our program manager is there to help brainstorm how we can help them excel at it. And so that's kind of our training in a nutshell. And Frank, if you want to go to the next slide. here are some great statistics about our training and our program. We survey both coaches and youth and our host sites to really get an understanding of the success of our program. And so here are some more of the recent statistics from our program. 86% of youth have improved in at least one core social emotional learning competency. If you're not sure what an SEL competency is, they are the skills, behaviors, and attitudes that are connected to sport participation and positive outcomes related to health, education, and risk prevention. So the core competencies that we are looking at Up2Us Sports are self-awareness, social awareness, self-management, relationship skills, and responsible decision making. In addition to that, we're also asking youth how they feel about the relationship they have with their coaches, because that's such an important piece of our training. And so as you can see, 81% of youth would go to their coach, say they go to their coach for advice, and 92% say they also trust their coach. But we also want to be sure our program is impactful to the coaches in the program as well. And so we ask them how they feel about the training, and 92% have said that they are successful at implementing our training strategies. And then 92% after their service term are either going to a job, enrolling in another service term, or another school program. We really want our program to benefit the coaches as well, which segues well to Frank's next session about talking about how coaches benefit from being a part of our program. So I will pass it off to Frank.
Thank you, Addie. And we sort of broke this up into the AmeriCorps piece, the benefits that they'll get from that side of things, as well as the Up2Us piece, which we touched on a lot already. So the two biggest things that they'll receive is a living stipend throughout the year. They get paid bi-weekly for either, it can be, and we'll sort of dive into the specifics, but 6, 9, 12 months. At the end of their service term, they'll get an education award. And that is different based on the slot type that they may be, but and we'll get into the specifics there. I keep wanting to get too far ahead of myself. They'll get that coach training that we talked about. Another really awesome resource that's offered to them throughout their year is called the Member Assistance Program, or MAP as we like to call it. And it's completely free for them throughout the year. And some of the things that are offered are 24/7 phone counseling, some work-life resources depending on where they're living, and even potentially legal or financial support from AmeriCorps. Another really cool thing that they get throughout the year is they get to go on loan forbearance and not accrue any sort of interest. So they get, as soon as they're enrolled in the program, they get to apply for that. And that just makes them a part of the AmeriCorps network. And AmeriCorps will pay any sort of interest that's accrued throughout the year, which is phenomenal. Beyond that, hit the wrong computer. Beyond that, what they get from the Up2Us side is 70% of our coaches are from either live in or from the neighborhood that they're serving in, or even from the program that they're serving with. And that's really important to them, because when we talk to our coaches and we sort of get the why of why they want to do this, why do you want to be an Up2Us coach? And they want to give back to their neighborhoods, or give back to the program that they were with. And then some of the other things that they get, and we talked a lot about this already, is that career readiness that Meredith broke down. And then really the one-on-one support from program staff and the career readiness staff. And that can really look different for every coach. I believe it was Addie who was talking about just sort of, it can look very different. We're the ones who sort of need that support on a weekly basis, and others who maybe only need it on a monthly basis. So we really cater to what the coach needs, and make sure that they not only have a successful service year, but are built for success beyond that service year. So a lot of our conversations really are like, what are your goals for the year? What are your goals beyond the year? So we can help support that. It's not this, umbrella program or umbrella support where it's like, one size fits all. Everyone needs support in different ways, whether that be in the service term and like helping them collect that data that was mentioned, or, I've in the past helped coaches apply for school or apply for different benefits with SNAP and things like that. So the support can come in a multitude of ways, and we really get to know our coaches. So so we can support them the best that we can. And I am throwing it over to Addie to talk about a little bit more about what programming can look like, and then how to apply.
Awesome. So programming can really look different it can look how you need it to look for your organization. We're pretty flexible in what our coaches can do. School-based organizations are going to look different than community-based organizations that just have after-school programming. Something just to keep in mind is AmeriCorps members can't replace a full-time employee. So if you have, for example, like a PE teacher, one of our coaches, AmeriCorps coaches, can't replace a PE teacher. However, they can assist the PE teacher in PE classes. So if you have a staff member at your organization, our AmeriCorps member can't replace them. However, they could assist with them. They can run and lead their own after-school programming and sports programming. It's really we just can't replace that full-time coach. But our coaches really can lead your sports programming. They typically don't create programming, but they can implement the programming that you have in place. Just a little programming details about AmeriCorps. So coaches can serve from 6 to 12 months, typically is our usual time frame. And they serve a minimum number of hours. So the starting is 900 hours, which is what we call half-time, all the way to full-time, which is 1,700 hours. We recommend if you have a full-time coach that they serve the full 12 months, just so they can reach that minimum hours goal. And so you can kind of see, okay, this is how much programming I have from this date to this date. So this is how much, this is what kind of coach slot that I would need. And so coaches will complete that training that they go through. And then during their service term, as we already talked about, they receive a living stipend as well as an education award from us. And then one thing that when you're thinking about this for your program, we do ask that all programs have a host site supervisor, is what we call them, to manage coaches. And those go alongside with the program manager. So that's really our direct contact, our program manager's direct contact, and they work together to be sure the coach is doing the things that y'all want them to do, and they're meeting our expectations at Up2Us Sports as well. But really, this can be pretty flexible about how you want what you want your coach to be doing. For example, our coaches can also help with after school activities. So if you have a full after school program and there's just an hour in there where they're doing sports programming, our coach can help with homework help. They can help feed kids dinner that evening, and then they can go run and lead your sports programming and then come back and help with a little STEM activity. So our coaches are able to do a variety of things as long as they have that core sports piece in there. They can help with the whole aspect of your program. And Frank, if you want to go to the next slide. And so this is the breakdown for the cost share for our coaches. So our coaches, at the first row, you can see our coach stipend, and you can see the 3 different types of coach slots that we have. So the coach stipend varies for each different slot because the minimum number of hours changes for those slots. And then the second row is the Coach Education Award. And so this is an education award that is given to the coaches at the very end of their service term. And it can go towards any current, future, or past school student loan payments, and they have 7 years to use it. And then this is the cost share that we cover. That includes paying the coaches, gear for the coaches, training the coaches, supporting the coaches, onboarding, and going through background checks with the coaches. And then the bottom is what our host sites cover for the cost share. And so it varies depending on the slot type, but that is the cost share that if you wanted to partner with our organization, that you would be responsible for the coaches. And that would be all that you would pay for the coach's service term, because we would then pay the coach their stipend directly. So you wouldn't have to worry about adding them to your payroll or anything like that. And then, so how to apply? We will send out our partnership application after this call. The partnership application is fairly simple. It really just dives into some details about your program, because we want to be sure we know everything we can possibly can about your program. But then it also asks some specific questions about how you would use your coach, what coach slot type you're interested in, kind of just all of the details we would need to know to start the partnership. Please know that this application does not commit you to anything at all. It really is just to get the conversation started. So if you've already had a lot of conversations with our programs team before you submit the application, we would most likely send you an award letter afterwards, since we've already had those conversations. But if you haven't met with our local programs team, then this would start the conversation with our local programs team before we even talked about awarding slots, we would be sure that this is the right fit for you. And so just know if you complete the application, it doesn't commit you to anything, but that's just really the first step in the process. And if you want to go to the next slide, Frank. So for our winter onboard deadline, the deadline is December 16th. So that is just completing the application. From there, you would start having the conversations. You would get awarded however many coach slots. And then we would start having MOU conversations. So our memorandum of understanding agreement. And then once the MOU is signed, that is when you are committed to that coach slot number. And so leading up to that, we would have lots of conversations before then. And then our fall onboard deadline is January 31st. And then our MOU, it's a little bit longer of an MOU process for the fall. So MOUs are usually signed in April, so you can begin coach recruitment then. And then our winter start date is January, February, and our fall start date is August, September. The specific dates for coach start date kind of vary by region, and so we haven't listed them there, but your regional program officer or program manager will know those for sure. And so once you get the application submitted or once you begin conversations with them, they'll be able to give you those specific dates. And that's really all we have for you today. We will send out all of our contact information, and we'll send out the PowerPoint as well as the application. But we did want to open the floor to questions, to any questions y'all may have. We're here for the next, however, 30 minutes or 45, I don't know how much longer our call goes, but we're here to answer any questions you have. So feel free to stay on and chat with us, because we'd love to answer those questions.